The following is a Podcast One Minnesota production.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
If it's made in Minnesota, who's making it and how?
Yeah, you got that right.
It's the makers of Minnesota, focusing on the products and services uniquely made in Minnesota, and conversations with the makers, entrepreneurs, and innovators in Minnesota about how they conceived of their products and how they brought them to market. With Stephanie Hansen, it's the makers of Minnesota.
Hi, this is Stephanie Hansen, and you're listening to The Makers of Minnesota, where we talk to cool people doing cool things throughout the state. If you like this podcast, please tell others about it. It's really helpful to get the word out. We also have a Facebook page, Makers of MN, Instagram, and Twitter. And thanks to those of you that have reached out and let me know about cool stories. We're also on LinkedIn, too, and I find that a lot of the entrepreneur community really appreciates hearing the stories that are happening on LinkedIn. Not to get anyone's hopes up, but I did have an investor actually that was asking me about one of the clients that I spoke with. So you just never know. It's all about making connections. The first connection that I have here today is Ben Brieshoff, and he is with Beat Vodka. And Ben, I remember meeting you, boy, I want to say it was like 3 years ago at a tasting event.
Wow.
Yeah. And the first thing that came to mind when I tasted your vodka, because I was like, oh, I don't know what this is. And I was thinking like beets, like vegetable beets,
Right.
not sugar beets. And you were like, oh, you really need to try it. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. So I tried it, and something that still sticks in my mind about your vodka that has really appealed to me is there's like a viscosity to it.
Yeah.
It's like thicker in your mouth.
Yeah.
That is so elegant.
Well said.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
and
amazing.
I just,
yeah, right. And I'm glad you remember it after all these years, too.
I did, and I've been trying to reach out to you. You're a busy person, and we'll get to that, but I'm assuming you maybe have a day job too. But I was like, wow, this vodka is so different. It is different than so much of the distillery movement.
Right.
And, you know, there was this huge boom. We have all these distillers, and people start with vodka because that's the easiest and the least likely to be aged.
Yes.
But yours was really different. Tell me about it.
Yeah, thanks a lot. You're right on that. I think people describe, the unique thing about beet vodka is that we're made out of sugar beets. And like you said, it's not a beet like a red thing that you eat.
People don't even know what sugar beets are.
Don't. And so there's a big education opportunity for us to talk about this huge agricultural story that is found up in the northwest part of Minnesota, the biggest co-op of sugar beets in the country, up in the Red River Valley. But yeah, sugar beets used for sugar production. And that's exactly what you need to create an alcohol.
Yep.
So it's this really beautiful crop naturally sugar that you use then for creating an alcohol, but it's super unique to do it. And so it creates, a little bit more of that kind of viscosity, that beautiful mouthfeel, the sippability, I guess, for lack of a better term, that you usually don't find in a vodka. And yeah, we've been out now a little over 2 years.
What was your background? Because, okay, most vodkas are made with what? Grains?
Most vodka is corn or grain. You're absolutely right.
And then there's some that are potato.
Some that's potato. You can really make vodka out of, I think, more or less anything, so long as you have that sugar to then ferment and distill. But yeah, most corn and grain. And usually, we do tastings, we do events, kind of like where we met originally. People have this, previous experience with vodka that's usually not the greatest.
Yeah, because it can be so just like what you smell in your vodka when you're putting it to clean out your ears or whatever.
Yeah, and vodka is, what we find is that vodka, especially for the craft producers here that have come to the scene in the last couple of years, it's kind of that first thing, like you said, it's technically easy to make, but it's, I say, easy to make poorly.
Sure.
It's kind of hard to do it well and hard to make something that you actually want to taste because usually vodka is something to be mixed and it's the kind of the gateway to the next thing, like to a gin, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just something that we decided, let's just try to do it differently, and here we are. So
what was your background?
Yes.
Were you in commodities or something? How did you even know about sugar beets?
No, I actually had a commodity trading job long ago. I was there for 3 days and then quit, so that wasn't quite my thing. But I've been in sales and marketing for my career up until this point. It was more, I think, finding an original co-founder who is no longer in the business, but having a little bit more of that domain expertise in the distilling world. And the two of us came together and decided to do this. And through his expertise and a little bit more of my application to bringing it to life, here's what we have.
So you are the sales and marketing guy of the operation, and I know at this point it's solely yours.
Yes.
Would totally just off the cuff, honest question.
Yeah.
If you knew now what you didn't know then, would you have created a product that has to be explained because it's the first of its kind?
I probably wouldn't have even had the know-how to even get to the point, regardless of had I done a corn or a grain or a
Right.
product that had already been done before, just or sugar beets. I think it was as with I think any business story. There's always that one moment or series of moments where things just kind of happen. They just happen. The light bulb, it comes together, and I think that was what we had early on.
Tell me about that. Do you remember the moment?
Yeah, I do actually. I think it was, it was at a brewery. I'll name names. I think it was at Indeed.
Yep.
And really there was this kind of draw to the craft beer industry. Again, this was about 4 years ago.
Sure.
So we've been out now, as mentioned, a little over 2.5 years, about 2.5 years now, Beat Vodka has. But before that, there was about 2 years of kind of ideation and thinking about this thing that we were wanting to launch. And but it was at Indeed, and it was really taking on the inspiration from the craft beer scene, loving this coming together, sharing a drink, the social element of having a drink.
Yep.
Realizing that beer that's kind of saturated already. 4 years ago, no distilleries or very, very few existed.
Yes.
And so I think that was part of it. That social kind of wanted to do something like sharing that experience and realizing that spirits are kind of the new thing, and taking some of that experience that my original co-founder had and kind of some of my application and know-how, and there you go. So
can I pick a little bit at the original co-founder piece? So
Sure.
You guys started this company together, and
Yes.
then this other person got out.
Yes.
Was it amicable?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was just realizing that, things change, first of all, in a person's just life, I guess.
Yes,
Life
personal
happens.
lives, sure.
Life happens, and there's only so much that a person can focus on in their day-to-day or week-to-week. And I think, wanting to go maybe move the business at different speeds or having slight different visions, not that that's a bad thing. It's kind of probably pretty common.
That's why I poked at it, because
yeah.
I think so many people, like, you start a business and you have this idea of what it's going to be.
Right.
And many of you out there, you're working your day jobs and
Mm-hmm.
then doing this on the weekends and the evenings, trying to bootstrap it,
Right.
trying to get it going. And that's not for everyone.
Right.
And even once you get it like launched, then there's like, oh, now we have to do all the marketing and
Right.
the endless hours. And, you know, a lot of young people start companies and then they have families and it
Right.
doesn't jive.
Right.
And
I just heard the other day too, you have to start something with the end in mind to a certain extent. That helps, I think, frame all the work and the things that are going to be required along the way on this journey from, it's great to have an idea and it's great to launch something, but then there's a whole lot more that's involved,
Yeah.
obviously. So if hey, my goal is to sell the business in 3 years. Well, that's different than my goal is to build something over the long haul and have it for 30 years
Yep.
and pass it to my children. So I think that kind of changes a little bit the equation as well.
it sure did. I mean, when I think about that, I think I started a business with my husband, and my perception of when our end game was coming and his was completely different in his mind the entire time. And I knew that he had a number in mind, but when we got to X number, we were selling it.
Oh, yeah.
And I just kind of was like, oh, yeah, sure, you say that now. And the getting to that number seemed so pie in the sky.
Right.
And then we marched past that number, and I was like, oh, yeah, great. We got to the number, and we had a little celebration. And then a year later, he was like, okay, I'm done. I was like,
wow.
really?
Wow.
That was fast.
Yeah.
I was like, I told you.
Yeah.
You didn't believe me.
Yeah. And I think so. Yeah. That was amicable. That was about a year and a half ago now. And so I think really the overall goal, not the goal, but the reason for creating Beat Vodka was not because of just an obsession over a vodka.
Yep.
It was really more so that undercurrent of we want to create a social business, social in the sense of bringing people together, sharing a drink, connect, kind of like we're doing right now. You know,
Yep.
we're talking about, beat vodka, and it's brought us together, and now we're kind of learning about each other's stories and backgrounds and this and that. And we call it the pioneering spirit. Kind of share your pioneering spirit.
Yep.
Reference to this individual who pioneered the sugar beet industry a little over 100 years ago. And so, yeah, I guess obviously we parted ways amicably because at the very core it was to really just enjoy each other's company and enjoy people's company and not to, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say exactly, but we are just excited about having something that can kind of create that conversation. And
So do you have a day job at this point, and have you had a day job the whole last 2.5 years while you've been building the company?
so I have for the last 10 years, and it started at the very, very beginning with a really small boutique construction business, and had developed a department within the business. So I'm still there doing that.
Yep.
And doing this. Those are kind of my two, both very entrepreneurial.
So it's
two
not-
hats, completely different. I always say, let's not drink vodka as we're swinging hammers and doing construction work. But
so it's not awkward. Do
no.
you have like the flexibility
Yeah,
to do
absolutely.
both businesses?
yeah, both very entrepreneurial. And leading this department. Have an ownership stake in that business.
Yep.
Obviously, beat vodka as well. So,
do you feel tied? Like, so today is Monday, and I'm gonna work on the construction business this time to this time. Like, how do you multitask two separate companies?
So you sound like my wife asking me that.
I'm sure I do.
It's a struggle. I think it's I'm kind of doing both at the same time. I mean, in the midst of the day, I think in some ways if I compartmentalized, that would probably be that would be more advantageous. I've just kind of been one that's always, have my phone, have my laptop, my office is with me constantly. It's probably that true entrepreneurial story or the millennial story nowadays. And yes, I'm kind of always oscillating between the two. There might be certain days or chunks of time where it's more dedicated to this one business versus the other.
And I'm kind of type A organized where I want okay, this day I'm going to do this
right.
and that day I'm going to do that. But then someone calls you in the middle of the day and they want to talk about the thing that you're not doing that day. It's
right.
not like you can say, no, call me back tomorrow. I'm not working on that today.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think, too, there's a lot of passion for beet vodka. I really, really love it. I think it's a great, great product. And obviously we're still so new, just a little over 2 years now. So there's so much opportunity, so much we need to do that I think that does excite me. It's the thing that excites me probably the most in what I am doing. And so with that, it's not like it's not miserable, I guess, waking up every morning and saying, oh, I have to focus on this today.
I have to focus on my vodka today.
It's really exciting.
Did you capitalize the business? Did you bootstrap it yourself?
Yep, bootstrapped ourselves. So, and I think we were pretty smart to really find individuals that are already experts in certain areas. So, for example, we decided not to open our own location, our own distillery. One, because we knew we weren't experts in, even though we could produce alcohol, and my business partner at the time knew how to do it on a larger scale. That's kind of a different animal, and to have quality control and to make sure it's consistent and great every single time on a larger batch was, something we decided we should just outsource, for lack of a better word, or partner with an existing distiller, an existing expert who's already been doing it. And so
who distills your product?
Yep. So we found a distiller just across the border in Hudson, or just by Hudson, 45th Parallel.
Sure.
Maybe you know them.
I do.
So Paul Warney, he's and Scott Davis. Davis, formerly the owner of Toast Wine Bar in Minneapolis.
Yep.
They started this distillery about a dozen years ago. They live in Minneapolis.
Yep.
Obviously, the laws being such that at that time it was too cost prohibitive to open a distillery here.
Yep.
Just until a few years ago. I think it was $30,000 a year here. So they opened up there, and they're great at what they do. They really are the pioneers of the craft distilling industry here on a local level. And so we said at 4 years ago, guys, we have this idea. We have this unique crop, this unique product.
Had you already contracted with the farmer for your crop, or do you like get your crop from one farm, or do you?
No, so we work with the co-op up there, so
Okay.
it's not necessarily one specific farmer. It's pretty difficult to sugar beet industry is really, really large, and
Yep.
so we're just really like a speck.
I kind of wondered about that.
As much volume as we would ever do, I don't think we would ever amount to. We could be the biggest vodka in the United States and probably still
Be a nothing in the sugar
50%
beet world. Yeah.
of the U.S. supply of sugar is from sugar beets.
Wow.
And that goes in everything,
Yeah.
whether it's a beautiful craft vodka or Snicker bars or, you name it.
This
So,
is like a weird story, but
Yeah.
my dad was a banker in the 1970s and 80s. And at one point, as a little girl, I remember we had to drive out to this person's farm to look at these beets. And I didn't eat beets as a kid. And I just remember that they were like these really weird looking giant potato-y things that had all these sprouts. And my dad like explained to me that was how sugar was made. And all I knew was like CNH, pure cane sugar, or the canes, and they're walking through these beautiful cane fields. And
that's half of it.
Yeah.
That's the other 50% of
so
our
it's
sugar supply.
people, honestly, I think a lot of people don't realize like how much sugar comes from sugar beets.
It's crazy. So, but kind of going back to your question, was able to self-fund. And that's part of it because we said rather than having such a large capital investment in doing a distillery, as cool as it is, it didn't make sense from a first financial standpoint. It was better, I think, for us to try to bootstrap, work with an existing distillery that, like I mentioned, is great at what they do.
Yep.
We knew we could have confidence in the outcome of the product. We also knew that we could save and put that money elsewhere into more, say, design,
packaging, marketing, distribution.
and really getting the product, and to this day still, getting the product into people's hands and creating that kind of nice experience for people with this beautiful bottle that we have. So,
how much do you think it was for your initial investment?
How much total capital? I think probably 50,000.
That's less than I thought, actually.
Yeah.
I was thinking it'd be about 150.
Yeah, it might have even been a little bit less than that.
And did you just put it on your credit cards? And
Yeah.
That's
kind of the typical story. Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
but we funded that, and then we also partnered with an agency in the cities that could help us take these rough ideas and.
That's an interesting thought. So,
Yeah.
did you literally partner with them in terms of you have X amount of shares and we have X amount of shares?
Yeah, right.
That
Yep.
makes a lot of sense.
Yep,
I
yep.
haven't heard that agencies. I guess Periscope, I've heard, has done some
I think
of those
it's
types
pretty
of
rare.
relationships.
I think it's pretty rare.
Did you have contacts or friends, and that's how you made that relationship happen?
Kind of dumb luck. It was at a barbecue, and I was talking about with some individuals, some friends of friends, saying, "Hey, I have this, idea. We're going to launch a vodka, and I'm just kind of looking right now for maybe an agency or two that could help us further articulate this idea
And the brand.
And this individual said, "Oh, I got somebody. I'll send you their
Wow.
info." And so that was kind of like dumb luck.
Yep.
In a way, I guess. And one thing led to the next, and I think it was just the right timing, kind of as with the 45th parallel is the right timing.
You're a lucky person, and I know everybody makes their luck, right? But
Right.
one of the things I was going to ask you is the way that your product is packaged and the way that it presents
Yeah.
on the shelf. And it's very beautiful. It's very stylish.
Thanks.
When I go to Certix and I stand and I look at the vodkas, yours ultimately stands out as high end, but also it's affordable,
Yeah, it was, and it's good. I mean, it's good value in the sense. Yeah, it's higher price point, I think, than a lot of craft, but it's also good value in the sense that usually you don't want to taste what you buy in the world of vodka.
Yeah,
and so
you're just
therefore you're
masking
gonna
it with something else.
masking it with other stuff, and you have to buy other ingredients to mix it with. We get a lot of people that say, "I just love having it on the rocks."
Yeah.
Or beet vodka, lime, and soda, like some very, very simple and therefore inexpensive ways to enjoy the product. So yeah, but thanks for the mention of the aesthetic. It was kind of for us a way to create something that was timeless in a way, really sincere, simplified, and just back to this agricultural kind of story that we're trying to tell. So the bottle itself represents a sugar beet. Has this leafy top, that paper wrap on the top of the bottle represents that leafy top of a sugar beet. Obviously the name, cross section of a sugar beet you'll see on the wood cork and on the paper wrap itself as well. So,
how hard is it to stand out in your industry? I mean, you are in a gigantically crowded industry of alcohol. B, you're in the craft alcohol movement, which has been very prolific in both Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Are you just like, wow, this is really a game of trying to get noticed here?
It is. It definitely is.
How do you do that? Is it sampling or?
It's sampling. Yeah, you have to do a lot of sampling. You have to do just a lot of promotions. You have to do a lot of podcasts.
Yep.
Just kidding. No, but that helps, obviously, anytime you can tell your story a little bit. But I think first of all, just hoping and doing the best you can to create something that's different so that you even have a chance to differentiate in the crowded market that it is. So I think that if we were just another corn vodka, if we were another glass, gaudy looking bottle, and we were priced at $23.99 or whatever it is, that honestly I think would be a far more difficult battle to win.
Yep.
And it's not that we are by any means where we would want to be. We have a lot of opportunity and a lot of runway yet. But I think the fact that we've kind of taken a bit of a different approach in many different ways gives us at least a unique opportunity to further engage and to create kind of that interest, kind of like you mentioned too with, even the product itself. You remember the viscosity from 3 years ago. So, but it's just a lot of creating that awareness.
Do you do the sales or do you work with your distributor?
Yep. We have to work with our distributor for the actual delivery, transportation, and whatnot to our retailers on or off premise. But I do personally some of the sales. We also have kept a lot of kind of keep it close friends and family, just that are really close and integrated and familiar with the brand.
Yep. To
be kind of these brand ambassadors that go out and do tastings or events, things like that. So,
so in your typical day, or I guess a week, are you like, okay, today I'm making 10 sales calls? How do you create those relationships?
Yeah, I think right now, and it is true, I think the good and the bad of the world of alcohol, unlike, for example, beer can self-distribute.
Yep.
So alcohol, we can't. So with that, the bad is that there's a lot of profit that's lost.
Yep.
Because of the
middleman.
The middleman, yep. But with that, there's beauty in that they help you get into these accounts. So they have all the relationships and they.
So do you go into the distributor then and literally meet with them and sell them and here's how we want you to position it and.
Yep. From time to time we do that. We are in North Dakota, Minnesota, and part of Wisconsin. So we have teams in each of those markets, and we will have them help us get into their accounts, and then from there it's just a matter of us then supporting them or visiting ourselves and keeping that top of mind awareness so that there's more pull through.
Yeah. Does the agency handle that you're partnered with the lifestyle and the social side?
No. So the social we do ourselves. Really do most things ourselves besides the actual packaging at the distillery.
Yeah.
Distilling and the vodka. So there's a lot. So I guess
every day you're like, okay, what's my Instagram story for today?
Yeah, kind of. Could be doing more of that. Obviously, that's just an endless battle.
Yes, it is.
But there's so much. I mean, from visiting ABC bar or restaurant to going in and doing
I didn't even think about bars. You want to be front and center in the bar too.
Yeah, and that's a totally different animal than, for example, a liquor store.
Yeah.
So. Retail versus that experiential, sitting at the bar.
Does the craft bartender movement like your product?
Yeah, they do. I think that there's again, with vodka, it's changing, actually, to tell you the truth. But in the last several years, it's been more like gin's cool. The darker aged spirits are now cool. But vodka we've seen come back here recently. There's a resurgence toward the craft vodka that actually has character, that has flavor, and bartenders are now starting to realize again that you can use it in some very unique, interesting, versatile ways, unlike maybe the mass-produced or international brands of the past.
Right.
There's some really, really nice, beautiful vodka out there. Obviously, I'm gonna toot our own horn just with the kind of the the peppery vanilla notes that beet vodka has, it really can play well in the cocktail world. So I think it's now a matter of creating the awareness with a small team, actually being there in front of these mixologists.
Yeah.
But it's been great, I think, in the last even last several months with us kind of really starting to focus on that. So.
And do you do beer, the beer people have beer dinners, and is that like having a vodka dinner? And
we've done a few of those.
Yep.
Yeah, we've done a few.
Because vodka, we've talked about, can be in pie crust.
Yeah, right.
There's
Absolutely.
it can be in potato salad. There's quite a lot of uses for vodka.
Oh, wow. I should just do a full-on vodka,
Oh,
drinks,
vodka. Yeah,
food,
exactly.
the whole 9 yards.
The whole thing. So you think like a marketer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we should. So we have a lot of opportunity in that sense. But yeah, there's just a lot. I mean, we'll go out to the distillery. We'll make sure that they're quality control. We have these new mini bottles that we're launching in the next few weeks.
They're real cute.
Super cute.
Describe your customer to me.
Customer would probably be more of an urban professional. They are people who want to have just a nice experience, looking for something different, something that they can that's curated. That's a good question. Actually, I should probably know that a little bit more.
Is your product like a martini focused product? Because I think you can drink it on the rocks, or you can drink it straight up. It's a vodka you can drink alone without a lot of mixers and stuff. So does that lend itself to martinis? And do you do that whole game?
Yeah, one of our cocktails, we got several cocktails on our website. One of them is called Beet Neat.
I saw that.
Yeah, and that's kind of a playoff of, if you have a drink that's neat, well, it's just the vodka itself in the glass, that's it. But this was like a cocktail version of that. So we just added a little bit of orange bitters, twist of lemon. That's a very simplified martini.
Yep.
But it makes a really good dirty martini. When we do liquor store samplings, we just sample it neat. Not the beet neat, but just it literally neat in the glass versus a cocktail.
When you do a sampling event, I've always wondered that, I'll go to Surdyk's and there's all these people sampling.
Yeah. By the way, Surdyk's, there's a big one coming up, I think in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, FYI.
So when you go and you are sampling the product at a Surdyk's, we'll just use that as an example. Do people just walk right from there to your display, pick it up, and leave with it?
Yes.
And
not every time, however, but that does happen.
So you have a huge bump in sales from doing that. I'm
assuming. You can. It is. It can be a really, really nice way to move product, to engage and share the story of beet vodka. It's really hit and miss though. At the same time, you can have days when there's so many people. The consumer is an interesting. Individual, interesting character, because we've been at places before when it's crickets, other places when there's lines out the door practically. So
yeah,
it's really
that's
hard to
interesting.
say. And so we always ask, when's your busiest day or when's your busiest time? And they say, oh, usually on such and such, but that can depend on if it's beautiful outside, if it's a holiday
and
weekend, what else is going on in the cities, et cetera.
Do people drink vodka more in the summer, or is it not weather dependent? Gins obviously do get more play in the summer.
Yeah, we haven't seen a huge difference, I don't think, for us. But yeah, I think typically you are correct. It is more of that summer warm cocktail drink. But at the same time, recently we were this is about 2 months ago, up at Grandview Lodge. We had there was craft spirits. It was called Distilled, big craft spirits weekend. And we did a class about the versatility of vodka. And in that class, we made a Manhattan with beet vodka.
Cool.
And it was awesome.
Yeah.
And people could hardly tell the difference that we were using vodka in this kind of twist on the traditional
that's
classic.
Interesting.
And it was great. So, there's ways that you can really incorporate this product into that non-summer or more moody weather cocktail experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
As a marketer, are there podcasts that you listen to, or do you subscribe to magazines, or how do you stay up to date on the information in your industry?
You know what? Probably pretty poorly. I should probably stay in. I think
well, you have 2 jobs.
I think I'm just so focused on kind of
do you read
what
trade
we're
magazines?
doing. So I'll have some of the big national magazines like Inc. and Entrepreneur. But nothing in the specific trade of distilling or craft spirits. Once in a while, just on social media or on news feeds, read things like that. But there's nothing that I really listen to religiously or read religiously in that regard.
Are there
I'd
other
say.
entrepreneurs in town that inspire you?
Well, it's interesting. We actually have met with and have featured on our social media several of them in the cities. We call them pioneers. Again, going back with that hashtag pioneering spirit that we talk about a lot within our business. And so, I mean, in the craft spirits world, I'm trying to think who we've maybe who I look up to. You know,
Or just even people in any industry that you're like, wow, I really think they're doing a great job.
Yeah, well, I was going to go back to, I think, even Nick Kosevich, Bitter Cube.
Sure,
He's
for
great.
sure.
We've worked with him and his team on some various, events and
He
cocktail
was like
creations.
my first, not my first podcast, but like in the very first round.
Yeah, they're doing all kinds of great, cool
Yep,
things.
he's really
Eric
fun.
Eastman,
Uh-huh.
great guy, does some beautiful, beautiful photography of his cocktails and
Yes,
his
he
beautiful
does.
cocktails that he makes. And I'm trying to think recently who Sarah Edwards, we've had
Sure.
her in. She's a great connector, influencer
Sarah
in there.
Edwards.
I am
Mhm.
Sarah Edwards. We've had Melissa Coleman.
Yep.
Melissa Coleman's she just launched a cookbook recently, and
Yep.
she's the full Martha on social media. Very, very just wonderful, salt of the earth person.
Yeah, she's got a good cookbook too.
Yeah, she really does.
Yeah, I liked it.
And
All right.
I don't know. There's just so many people. I think the one thing that we found, and especially with this business, is that we've been able to connect with so many just great creatives.
Yeah, we have a really unique town for that.
Great town for that. So it's been fun.
Well, I think it's fun to talk to you.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank you.
for coming in and sharing your story with us. It's
Appreciate
Beat
it.
Vodka. We'll put a picture and a link and all that good stuff on all of our socials, and we look forwd to
Thanks a ton.
seeing how this story develops.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Cheers.